Hey guys, so I wanted to come back again in this video and talk about another um, interesting topic that I feel like is good to cover and to share related to our faith as believers, as Christians, and the topic specifically is what are some examples of ways that God can speak to us specifically. Um, and because it's very important to be able to hear the voice of God and to know how to discern and hear from Him and know how He can speak to us specifically. Um, so I wanted to talk about that specifically and also share a story about something that happened to me recently that I feel like is a good example of that I believe God used to speak to me. Um, but so first off, I believe the main way that God does speak to us as believers is through His Word, through the Bible. There's 66 books in the Bible, and I believe they are all inspired by God, and He can absolutely use that or anything in a word to speak to us. So I do believe that is the number one way. In addition to that, um, in some cases, people have actually heard the audible voice of God. I have not personally, but I know of others that have, and I know that does happen, but it's not necessarily very common. Um, but that can absolutely happen. But another way, a second to the word that is common that I have experienced, and probably many of you others have as well, is just having spontaneous thoughts or um, impressions of things kind of come to you. It might be something you weren't necessarily thinking about, but something that will come to you, and it's kind of like God will put that upon our heart and our spirit. A thought that will come to us that we think, oh wow, I didn't think about that, or it's something that could be from His Word also. So He can definitely use that to speak to us as well. Um, but so I want to share the story about what specifically happened to me that I feel is a good example of some other ways that are outside of that God can use just about anything to speak to us in some ways we might not think about. But what happened to me personally is within the last month or so, I was going through. I've been going through a period that I was really kind of struggling, feeling fear and anxiety, and specifically kind of shame and condemnation on myself, and that was causing me to specifically the fear and the anxiety to um, really be significantly um, worse. And there was some days where I was almost having panic attacks and things like that. It was kind of getting to that point. Um, and very close to that time, within a couple of days of that time, I remember. So I work part time right now as a dock worker, driving a forklift specifically, and so I was at work, and so I basically I unload trucks and trailers, and then take the freight from that trailer to the next trailer or wherever it needs to go from there. And I was driving past a trailer, like one specific trailer. I wasn't actually unloading and working on this trailer, but I just happened to drive by it. And I hadn't seen this the whole time I've been there yet, and I have not seen it since then. But I was driving by, and I glanced in one of the trailers, and there was a pallet with a box on it, and the pallet had something that looked like it was written, like somebody wrote in marker on the side, and it was the writing said specifically, it said "heaven bound," the words "heaven bound," um, and so I looked at that and I kind of saw that, and um, I wonder, like, I don't know specifically what was in the box or what it was. I ended up looking it up later, and apparently there was a show series some years back titled Heaven Bound, and some Christian books titled that. I found one as well. So I don't know, maybe it had something to do with that, but I felt like in the time that when I saw that, that was something I feel like God wanted to use that to encourage me specifically, to allow me to see that, to encourage me that I am really, I am on the right path, leading to heaven, and I don't have to fear and fear condemnation, um, of losing my salvation. And I mean, that specifically because that's what I was really struggling with, specifically at a time that was related to the fear. Um, and so I feel like that was a good example of something that God can just use anywhere, or we could be out and we could see something else with something like that, written somewhere, and it could be just in the right time to encourage you. And also shortly after that too. Um, so in this period also, my wife and I had been kind of dealing with some stress and um, struggling with thinking about our future and finances, and are we going to bring enough money in, or saving up for a house and different things like that too. And so we're kind of feeling the weight and the stress of that financially. And so there was another day where I drove into a trailer. I was at work again, and I see a pallet with a box specifically, and then this time something is written, his provisions, as that was written on the box specifically too. And I kind of saw that, and kind of thought at first initially, kind of thought, wow, this is kind of, it's almost like a little bit funny that God could use these things, or that he to speak to me, but I took that as his encouragement also, for us right now too, that he is going to provide for us, and we can trust him in that specifically. So I just thought that was really kind of unique, and something that God kind of used to speak to me, and that he can use to speak to you guys as well. Um, so don't just think that there's only certain ways that God can speak, because I believe that he can really use almost anything. I've heard of cases of other people being God speaking to them through a song that they'll hear. It might be a certain Christian song, or something will pop on the radio, and it'll speak something directly to them that they need to hear at that time to be encouraging to them. God can speak through prophetic words, through others. If we can, as believers, we can prophesy over others, encouraging words that God can speak to us to speak to them. I've had some words for other people that were very encouraging to them myself, and that is also another way. But really, God can use so many things to speak to us, and I feel like this is a really good example of that. So just wanted to share that, and yeah, if you guys have any other unique experiences like that, feel free to drop it in the comments, and share from your experience as well of some different unique ways God has spoken to you. So if you guys like to hear kind of more topics related to faith, just let me know as well, and I'd be glad to do that in another video. And I just want to encourage you guys, and I wanted to share that. So thanks again, and until next time.